Hey everybody, this is Aaron the Pedantic. So today I wanted to talk about being a bridge for people that are modern gamers to go into, the older way of playing. The reason that this came up was I was thinking about how I ended up in the OSR, and I've talked about it. I talk about it pretty frequently just so that people know I'm not coming from a perspective, like an authoritative perspective. Like, I know everything that is to know about the OSR or how old school play works. I make sure people know up front that I'm just somebody who is incredibly enthusiastic and obsessive, and that, my opinions are subject to change drastically all the time. Uh, so it was partially the fact that I had run 5th edition for quite a while and I was unsatisfied, you know. End of story, I guess, perhaps. But there's actually, I think, a more important bit of information that I think really brought me to the even consider going into old school play, because you have to remember that everything that people typically say in the modern circles is old school play bad, old school play no character, old school play tactical war game. And it's not true, right? I mean, most of us know that that's really not true. And then there's of course AD&D super complicated, which is really funny, honestly. Uh, so that is something that we are working against, that we have to work against. And what do we have working in our favor? Well, occasionally there are rather large voices in the modern gaming community that will talk about old school gaming. And sometimes they talk about it in a very positive light. So for me, the first time that I really heard about how this all worked in a positive light was from WebDM's Jim Davis. So I have always been a big fan of WebDM. I really appreciate their videos, even if they do a good bit that's maybe directed straight towards 5th edition. Most of it's very universal. And Jim often talks about how to make things have more of like an old school spin. He doesn't really say it that way, but like that's kind of, well, sometimes he does say it that way. But he'll say that, well, this edition kind of does this, but in the old editions, and I kind of like this thing about it. And occasionally, like, they've actually just talked about the old school editions. And so this is somebody that I had some respect for. And they were telling me, this actually may be good. So what happens? I look into it and I find people saying good things about it. And then I look more into it. What makes it good? What's different? What has changed through all these years? And, that rabbit hole is what led me to where I'm at today. And I think that it's important that we try, and because there aren't going to be, not everybody is going to watch, those specific videos on WebDM and get what I got out of it. Oh, I have to mute things. But not everybody's going to get those things out of it. So that gives us an opportunity, perhaps. It gives us an opportunity. So, us being people that interact with those that are in the modern gaming circle. And so I think that what the best thing that we could possibly do for old school gaming would be is to talk to people in the modern gaming circles, to not be a dick, to not be like, the game that you play sucks, the game that we play is awesome, because that never wins people over. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But to instead try to understand what they like about the game. And that's going to vary from person to person, because there are a lot of different things that you can appreciate. I've done a couple videos on that. But to find what they can appreciate, and to find where perhaps old school gaming might be able to, win them over in some ways. And, just words to the wise, this isn't going to be everybody. There's going to be some people that just are not going to be interested in playing a game where their character might die. So, friend of the channel, a friend of me, Dark Knight, he talks about how he had a friend who, he was playing, about to run a game with, and the friend, found out that their character could die, and they said, well, I don't really want to get invested in a character that's going to die, so no thanks. And that's how some people are, and that is okay. That is okay for them. I think that if we approach from the right direction, there's a chance that they might appreciate what we have. But different tastes. Everybody has different tastes. There's a reason that I like the old school stuff, and I don't like to do the whole tactical combat, fourth edition style, stuff necessarily. I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to try it. But whenever we get bogged down into the strat RPG type stuff that I would do with like Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics, that's when a lot of times I'm like, well, I wish we could kind of speed this up. I'd like to get back to the dungeon, let's just all either die or kill it or escape. So I would like to encourage people, if at all possible, to talk to people in the role-playing game community. I'm going to use the hobby. Let's just say hobby. So the modern gaming hobby, to not be a dick. Like maybe try some of the things that they like. You don't have to. You don't have to. I think that it gives you a little bit more cred, though, whenever you're approaching these things. And why do you care, Aaron? Why do you care if we get these people to go back and play our games? I care because I want to see more players. It's that simple. I want more people to get to enjoy this, in the way that I have, in the way that, people that play with me get to. So that is my thought. That is my thought. So, I try whenever I play with, modern gamers, whenever I play in a 5th edition game, occasionally, maybe too much, but occasionally, in the post-game discussion, I may bring up, this was really cool. It's interesting how, we do this whenever, in the old school game, we would do this, like try and be like, like we really play out these particular elements. And it means that everything that you do, everything that you think, it matters so much at all times, And then, maybe that starts getting some gears turning for them. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe they're like, yeah, but I like my subclass feat combo, So just give it some thought, perhaps. Maybe you too can be an emissary of the old school Renaissance, or, even just AD&D or BX, So that's it for today. Y'all are awesome. The public game is going great. That Monday group, I say Monday group even though there's one different player, one player that left, one player that joined for Mondays this time. They scored big. They scored really big, and it's so hard because I have to stay tight-lipped on so much. But there's so much stuff that they got the goods, and they just narrowly avoided like the worst things imaginable. And I'm just like, oh, y'all are so lucky. Well, it's luck. It's also great planning. But yeah, so we have our first level 2 character, which is the cleric. There might, no, I think there's only one. There might be two. But yeah, so that's pretty big news. First person to make it to level 2. So yeah. That's it. I'm going to keep rambling if I don't stop. So y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day.